Okay, Adrian, I think we can begin.
Thanks, Jean-Pierre.
Okay, so I will just kick it off and then we will...
Do you introduce then Erica just to, as you said?
Yes. Okay, so good morning, everyone. Welcome and thank you for joining us for this webinar on weather and climate early warning in the Caribbean. My name is Jean-Pierre Kavanagh, and I'm the visibility and PR consultant of the investment plan for the Caribbean regional track of the pilot program for climate resilience. We call the program the Caribbean Regional PPCR for short because the full project name tends to be a mouthful. I would like to specially welcome our project procurement officer, procurement specialist, Ms. Erica Houghton, who will bring greetings on behalf of the project. After Erica brings greetings, I will hand over to Mr. Adrian Trotman of the Caribbean Institute for Meteorology and Hydrology, who will guide you through this morning's proceedings. Erica?
Good morning, Jean-Pierre, and good morning, everyone. Happy New Year to all. Best wishes for a productive and prosperous New Year, particularly as it relates to our ability to adapt and build resilience to climate change in our region. I'm Erica Houghton as introduced, but just for an update, I am now the program manager for the PPCR Caribbean Regional Track, having just sat in that position. The objective of our program is to improve the regional processes of climate relevant data acquisition, storage, analysis, access, transfer, and dissemination to pilot and scale up innovative climate resilience within the region, right? The program, however, is spearheaded not by us at the project management unit. We are just here for support. It's really spearheaded by our partners in the region who are entities with who are already tasked with doing these climate initiatives. They are the Caribbean Institute for Meteorology and Hydrology, who is the host of the conference here this morning, the Caribbean Agricultural Regional Development Institute, CARDI, the Caribbean Regional Fisheries Mechanism, CRFM, the Climate Studies Group at MONA, CSGM, and the Caribbean Public Health Agency, CARFA. Under Component 2 of the project, for which CIMH has control, we are tasked with really doing 4 broad objectives. One was to improve or retrofit the weather stations or some weather stations throughout the region. And we have done so far over 24 throughout the Eastern Caribbean, with an additional 30 to be done in Jamaica to improve the radio transmission of data and inputs into our database. 2 was to improve the regional climate database throughout the region. And we now have 3 backup databases or 3 backup servers throughout the region, one based in Belize, one in Trinidad, and so on, so that we can have a fail-safe in the case that one site goes down. We will still have our climate relevant data to do our analysis and inform our processes and planning. We also looked at developing climate products and services for use in particular sectors throughout the region, and so far 14 such products have been developed. And we also focused on building the capacity or training of our meteorological officers throughout the region. And to date, 54 such officers have been trained. The PPCR project will come to a conclusion in December 2021. And we hope that whatever activities we have remaining, we will be able to execute those successfully so that our region will be better bolstered by the knowledge that is gathered and funded throughout this project. With that, I hand over to John Pear. And again, thank you for joining our webinar this morning. And I hope you find the information quite useful as we seek to build resilience in the Caribbean region.
Okay, all right. Thank you, Erica. Well, actually, you should be handing over to Adrian. So I'm handing you now over to Adrian, who will guide us through the rest of this morning's webinar. Adrian?
Thanks, Jean-Pierre. Thanks, Erica. Can you hear me?
Hearing you clearly, Adrian.
Great. Thank you to everybody. I'm not sure if you're seeing me clearly for now. So as indicated, we're looking at weather and climate early warning in the Caribbean with the 4 areas of focus as mentioned by Erica. Here on our slide, hopefully everyone can see the presentation. I present to you those who will be delivering the messages we are sending today, Mr. Sean Boyce, who's our chief hydrologist, Dr. Allen and Mrs. Stout. Dr. Allen is assistant climatologist at CIMH. Chantal Stout is one of our technical officers in the Regional Climate Center. Likewise, Ms. Jody Ann Petrie, technical officer in the Regional Climate Center. Mr. Lowe, one of our IT specialists, and he also specializes in big data, as well as our principal, Dr. David Farrell. Before I go into just giving you a brief background into CIMH, I want to ask the principal, Dr. Farrell, just to give you a brief welcome on behalf of the staff of CIMH. Dr. Farrell.
You're muted, Dr. Farrell.
I guess sometimes you've got to press 2 buttons to get a response. Okay, so good morning, everyone. And I am not certain that I'm properly in the camera view, but I'll leave it to someone to say, no, I'm not.
You are.
Okay, thanks. So, okay, thanks. So good morning to everyone, and thanks for joining us this morning for this webinar on component 2 of the PPCR SPCR program focused on weather and climate early warning in the Caribbean. The goal is really to discuss the status of activities under the project at the moment. The project is expected to spend about $975,000 US dollars in supporting this particular activity. We've gone through quite a bit of that budget at the moment. Just let me express thanks for the Inter-American Development Bank for providing funding to support this activity through UWI MORI program. I just want to point out that though some elements of the program haven't been finished as yet, we expect hopefully to be able to finish the outstanding elements of the program sometime in 2021. But obviously that is going to be contingent on the status of COVID-19 in the region. But we are nevertheless committed to moving this project forward in its entirety and to sustain the advances that we've made under the project through different means, and we'll talk about that later on. So let me just hand you over to Adrian and say thanks again for everyone's participation, and we hope that we get useful feedback on where we're at so far. Thanks.
Thanks, David. I just want to say to those who are listening, we will more or less be presenting on the 4 areas that were mentioned by Erica up front. And each one will be separate presenters on these different areas. At the end, our principal, Dr. Farrell, will tie all these subcomponents of what you heard as component 2, which is consolidating and expanding the regional climate monitoring network and global platform linkages, essentially to be able to deliver weather and climate services, as you're focusing here on weather and climate early warning. Just to give you a little background, as I said, on the Caribbean Institute for Meteorology and Hydrology, in case there's anyone online who's not familiar essentially with what we do. We are a World Meteorological Organization affiliate in many sense. Through them, we are recognized as a regional training center for areas related to weather, climate, and water. Center of research in these areas, a regional climate data center that was very active in this project as well. World Meteorological Organization as well recognized instrument center. Again, a significant part of this, this project and what we're doing under the component. Very important too, in two of the subcomponents is our designation as a World Meteorological Organization's Regional Climate Center for the Caribbean, I dare say. We're a Center for Climate and Environmental Simulations, and the very first presenter that you have is actually heading that activity. We are well known to support and advise regional governments and provide services to industry. One of the more recent tasks is related to early warning for sand and dust storms. Again, under the World Meteorological Organization, as we are seen as the center for the Pan American region. And we've been an affiliate with the University of West Indies since 1972. We teach the Bachelor's of Science in Meteorology there. I just want to start with a background statement and what drives us, not only our component, but the other components in the PPCR. Climate change, I'll just read it. Climate change, increasing climate variability and extreme weather are expected to significantly impact socioeconomic development in the Caribbean. So mitigating this potential impact requires that the region makes climate smart decisions to build its resilience against future weather and climate hazards. That is the major driver for our component. And as I said, for components, basically for all components across the PPCR spectrum of components. So that's it from me as Master of Ceremonies, if we can say that. The presenters, I'm sure that you would have seen their bios. Many of you, I'm pretty sure, are familiar with the presenters and those who support the presentations. I will now hand over to look more deeply into the four subcomponents and the achievements from these subcomponents. We'll start with the Chief Hydrologist, Mr. Sean Boyce. Over to you, Sean.
Hi, thanks, Adrian. Good morning, colleagues, friends. Happy New Year to everyone. Wishing everyone a prosperous 2021. My particular role in the program was to do with the enhancement of the hydrometeorological monitoring networks across the Caribbean and really integrating the investments into the existing network and to make sure that the investment is sustainable. So I'll talk through essentially summarizing what was done and speak a bit about sustainability moving forward. Next slide, please. All right, so this is a summary, so everyone is aware of the investment through the regional PPCR component. We would have installed equipment in 4 countries, those being Dominica, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Grenada, and St. Lucia. Dominica would have received 8 water level stations, 5 of which were installed, 3 remain outstanding. In St. Vincent and Grenada, and St. Lucia, we managed to complete all of the installations, with St. Vincent receiving 4 water level stations, Grenada 2 water level stations and some spares, and St. Lucia received 1 re-engaged, 3 water level stations and some spares as well. There were some issues related to getting into the country regarding the current situation with COVID, hence that would have delayed some of the installations nevertheless, we expect to get everything done before the end of the program in 2021. These stations monitor essentially water levels as well as discharges in some cases. And we mostly go with a Sutron OTT platform to make sure that we can integrate whatever's installed into our existing systems and to make sure that we can have a common network architecture across the Caribbean as it relates to the stations that we control. This reduces the training effort as well as maintenance costs. The stations that were installed have dual transmission capabilities. That is, they can send data via GPRS or satellite transmission, which provides a bit of redundancy in the data transfer. Next slide, please. Another component of expansion of the monitoring occurs at the airports located in these countries, where there are some existing automatic weather stations at these airports in Dominica, St. Vincent, and Grenadines, Grenada, and St. Lucia. However, the data isn't currently being fed into our regional platform. So the idea was to provide a mechanism through which the data can reach the CIMH and be integrated into our database to support impact-based forecasting and so on. So that mostly has commenced. I believe in Grenada, we've completed the installation of the PC and so on, which I'll speak to in a second. However, we expect to complete the installation of the PCs and linking the automatic weather stations to the PCs to send the data to the CIMH in near real time in 2021. Next slide, please. Just to give a quick indication, or I guess snapshot of the types of stations or what they look like in terms of the installation. What you're seeing are really three countries, let's say Dominica, St. Vincent, and Grenada. Typically, we would install the stations, making sure that they're very secure. It's involved a bit of welding work to make sure the enclosure is secure and kind of tamper-proof. So all the equipment tends to be welded together so that it kind of makes it kind of difficult for persons who may have not necessarily the interested stations at heart. So we try to make those installations secure as possible. There are different ways in which that can be done. I mean, if anyone needs any advice as to how we can go about securing stations, is something that we could look into. My colleague, Dr. Jonathan Cox, who I believe is on the call, is actually the person that supervises the installation in the field. And what you're looking at is much of his work in the field. And to date, we've been receiving some good feedback in terms of the quality of the stations, and the stations tend to be fairly robust. Next slide, please. As it relates to the integration of the work at the airports, the goal really is, as I said earlier, is to integrate the existing AWS stations data that may be located at the airports. So the industrial PC really essentially is just a Linux machine that sits in the Met service somewhere that takes the information from the station via radio, provides a local display for those at the Met service, and then pushes the data to the our data integration platform, which is known as the Caribbean Dewitcher application. So this is kind of the work that, some of the work that's outstanding. To date, Grenada has been completed in terms of getting that link done. That would also be done in the remaining territories. As it relates to data integration, as I said, the data is pushed to our regional platform, which is known as the Caribbean Dewitcher application. This is a snapshot of what the interface may look like, focusing on Dominica, which shows the stations that were installed under PPCR, as well as existing stations that would have been installed through previous initiatives. So the idea is to integrate the investment into the existing network so that one would have a true picture of what's going on across the region as it relates to the onset of hydrometeorology events. Next slide, please. So typically what it would look like, this is the gauge at Quagga and Dominica, showing that the actual information coming in can be graphed. One can get the maximum water level in near real time, and this information is going to use to support response in the field. Next slide, please. So kind of to show how valuable the investment has been so far. In October, I believe, yes, October 29th to 30th, there was a hydrometeorological event in St. Vincent that was pretty significant, where over the period shown, you had over 220 millimeters of rainfall or so. We recorded that, in this case, a station called Mallorca. And the PPCR investment at Glenside actually was able to capture the response of the river system related to that event itself. So this type of data is actually very valuable. It provides information on how quickly these watersheds respond and support impact-based forecasts and early warning in the various communities. So typically all the stations that would be installed can support this type of activity moving forward. Next slide, please. Additionally, the stations themselves are configured to issue SMS alerts once a certain water level is breached. In this case, I'm showing, I believe, 3 different stations that were installed through PPCR in St. Vincent and Grenadines that would have gone into alarm due to that same event that I just focused on in the previous slide. And decision makers on the list of those who received the alerts would have been able to take action. So these alerts are sent from the stations, and it supports the disaster management community in their planning, as well as how they warn their persons who may be in harm's way. One key to it, though, obviously, the idea is not only to be able to provide real-time information, but we want to be able, at the end of the day, to have a climate record, or at least be able to know, have a record of water levels over a long period of time to perhaps look at the impact of climate. So we want to be able to sustain these stations in the field. So we've been reaching out to various partners throughout the region within the PPCR countries, and we have formed these various groups through WhatsApp and other means that we keep in constant contact with them. We having the data coming into us in their real time. We know when stations are not operational, reach out to them, get them to have a look at the station and try to get the station back online as soon as possible, and provide them advice and so on. So this has been working quite well in terms of keeping the stations up. Perhaps we've had probably around 80%, 80-90% of uptime, and it bodes well for the future, as we'd like to have a long record moving forward of water levels throughout the Caribbean to support water management and so on moving forward. So I believe that's it for me. I believe we're taking questions at the end. I will hand over to Adrian, who would walk you through the rest of the presentation. Thank you.
Thanks, Sean. And now we want to move on to the second subcomponent, building national capacity and climate information and services provision. I hand over now to Dr. Allen and Mrs. Stout. Over to you guys.
Good morning. Let me just adjust my camera for a second. Everyone can see. So my name is Teddy Allen, and along with Chantel, we'll be describing the next few slides in the building national capacity and climate information services provided. My role within this project is to assist with the training at the National Weather Services in terms of providing climate information and derived products. Okay, so next slide. Okay, thank you. So the objective for the training, as it's noted here in red, is to help build competencies and procedural resources on climate services. So what that essentially means is that we provide, with our group, we provide the training on climate information and products. And the information can be thought of things like some statistics, time series statistics of hourly or monthly weather or seasonal information, statistics on model results, on how to interpret model output in terms of its skill. And some of the products that we provide training on include time series value-added products, for example, information that can be derived from, say, for example, the hourly, the daily, or the monthly observations that are kept at the weather services. So initially, the program started with 3 target countries, which were St. Lucia, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and Grenada. And if you can go to the next slide, please. You'll see that even though there were 3 countries that were initially involved, it extended to additional 3. You'll see around January 2018 is when the program started, ended about a year and a half later in Dominica. And like I said, the 3 initial countries were St. Lucia, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and Grenada. And they were also followed up with Jamaica, Dominica, Haiti, and let's see, where was the Dominica, Jamaica, Haiti? Yeah, those were the other 3 to round out the total of 6. Okay, next slide. Great, thank you. So we trained in the Climate Services Toolkit Philosophy, which is a WMO program or WMO procedure. The components and the order that we followed are listed below in the figure details, and I'll just spend a very short few seconds in describing kind of like the flow chart of what we did and how we approached each training. So if you follow at the top, the guidance and the training, those can be used to produce information on climate products. Okay, so climate products consist of access to data and software tools. Now, the access to data is essentially accessing data that's been recorded and archived at your stations, and the use of software tools. In this case, we used the ClimPact2 software, which I'll show some output in a second, and other software tools to use that data to produce information. And then follow that with the service delivery. The information that we produced included some sector-specific information. Some information was more valuable to some sectors than others. For example, there was output services that were made on, like, say, cooling degree days, which may be good for energy sectors, as opposed to consecutive rain days, which might be better for agricultural sectors, and some of those delivery and best practices. So that was the philosophy in which we followed the trainings. Okay, the next slide, thank you. And so here is an example of the toolkits that were used within the training. So the toolkits were a combination of Excel and ClimPact2 software. Indeed, ClimPact2 is a free software made available by the WMO with support by NOAA. And what that did was allow us to use the station data, either again hourly or rebid it up to monthly data, to produce a wide array of indices. But before we did that, there was extensive training on quality control, because the data would need to be quality controlled and to be made sure that missing values were taken account of, outliers were taken account of before you actually did the training on how to ingest it into the tools and produce output. Now, some of the examples of the output include some of the plots that we're seeing here. You can take the hourly or daily data and produce seasonal climatologies, monthly climatologies, annual cycles. You can plot the data and show where the outliers are, so you can go back and correct the data itself, so that, you know, if your temperature was supposed to be 30.2 and it says 3.2, that is easily shown in the software, and you can go back and locate it and make those connections. Okay, so yeah, next slide, thank you very much. And so another thing that was accomplished was the work related to climate data management system. So as it sounds, as the name suggests, it is a climate database management system which supports data archiving. So the hourly and the daily values that are measured and monitored and recorded at the stations could be archived. Data management, so the ingestion and the extraction of data, the quality control of the data, the storage of the metadata. Data delivery, so the data can be shared back and forth. And finally, data presentation. And you can see that most of all of the data is centrally archived at the CAMH to provide the regional climate data repository. So that's just a brief highlight of some of the training that was done. I could probably go on for an hour or two to talk about the Climate Services Toolkit and the products that were derived and how it was derived. It's extremely fascinating. But for now, I'm going to pass it over to Chantel, and she's going to complete the next few slides on the training. Thank you, Chantel.
Thank you, Teddy. As we continue with the successes of our training and for these 5 workshops, we were able to look at statistical analysis on climate data, and this analysis was for various climatic events. For example, the dry spells, soil water balance, start of the growing season, and is essentially the things that are important for agroclimatic applications. And the tool to do such is one called INSTAT, and INSTAT is specifically designed to support the teaching of statistics as well as for climate data analysis, which are important particularly for agroclimatic applications. Next slide. With respect to climate monitoring, there has been calculation of climate indices, and these indices are important to detect local trends in variability as well as extremes with climate. And these climate indices were done using the ClimPact tool. Also, there was the calculation of the SPI, that's the Standardized Precipitation Index, which is used to monitor drought. It basically tells you how wet or how dry a particular location is. And the calculation of the SPI is done via, or was done via using the SPI calculator. And the SPI calculator, you're able to look at various time scales and various degrees of drought. And if you map this or graph it, as you see in the center figure, you're able to look back and see where the dry conditions would have coincided, for example, with past El Nino events. The CIMH SPI mapping tool has also been utilized, and this mapping tool gives an idea of the drying or the wetting across the region. So you would see a map there showing your blues and your reds, and it tells you the extent of the drought situation across the region. Next slide. In terms of climate prediction, there have been several advances made by CIMH in collaboration with the CARICOF, that's the Caribbean Climate Outlook Forum, in technical forecasting methodologies and some technical advances, as well as climate outlook product development, and more importantly, the communication and the presentation of such. There has been, or we can boast of the advancement that has been done in this area, where we have seen ourselves move away from manually developing climate products using the CPT, that's the climate predictability tool that's out of IRI, to see that tool being embedded into what we boast as CARIGEN, that's the CARICOF Outlook Generator. And that is an automated system in which National Meteorological and Hydrological Services personnel are able to utilize this platform to produce their local climate information. And this information is usually packaged nicely and presented to the various stakeholders so that they're able to make informed decisions going forward in their sectors. There have been 4 pre-CARICOF forecasters training workshops and stakeholder forums. This had been over 2 years, from November 2017 to November 2019. Georgetown, 1 in Georgetown, Guyana, 2 in Barbados, and the last would have been in Trinidad and Tobago. The objective, however, was to help build the competencies and the procedural resources on climate prediction and the subseasonal to seasonal time, at the subseasonal to seasonal time scales. Training was facilitated by the Caribbean RCC, that's out of CIMH, as well as the RCC Washington, that is out of NOAA, and the IRI. We could say today that competencies and procedural capacity has been improved at the CIMH, as well as the 6 National Meteorological and Hydrological Services. And finally, there has been enhancement of product quality and use, and this was done through the hiring of an assistant climatologist, which was able to support the delivery of a technical manual. And this technical manual involved the climate tools, all the climate tools that are employed by the Caribbean RCC and the National Met Services of the 6 PPCR countries, as well as giving an overview of the climate services that are offered by the Caribbean RCC. There's also been substantial improvement in the spatial coverage of climate records, and this would have been for Grenada, St. Lucia, and St. Vincent and the Grenadines. And this was done by preparation and quality control of data, particularly precipitation and temperature. And this has been from stations outside of what was normally used by the National Met and Hydrological Services for their operational climate products. And finally, there's been the development of prototype visualization products for soil moisture content. So there's been a great advancement in this training and in these sessions. So I turn over to Adrian again, and he will introduce.
Thanks, Teddy. Thanks, Chantel. We will continue to move swiftly on. Next, we'll focus on the development of sector-specific climate products and services for the PPCR countries. And for this, I want to hand over to one of our technical officers, Ms. Jody Ann Petrie. Over to you, Jody.
Thank you, Adrian. I work along with Dr. Rashay Mahon and Mr. Adrian Schroppman under the subcomponent 2 of the PPCR. And our work is mainly towards the development of sector-specific climate products and services for the selected PPCR countries. Today, I will speak mainly on 3 components, and those are the national committees for climate services, the national roadmaps for climate services, and sector-specific information at the national level. Now, I will give you the status prior to us going in, prior to the beginning of the project, and to let you know where we are now. So prior to the beginning of the project, as it relates to the national committees for climate services, there were no national climate services committees in any of the PPCR countries. There were no roadmaps for climate services in any of the PPCR countries. And as it relates to the sector-specific information at the national level, the Met services in each PPCR country, they were routinely participating in the monthly CARICOF process, and this process was building their capacity to develop a range of technical and national level outlooks. However, only one country was producing a user-oriented climate information product, and that was St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and they were doing this through their national weather bulletin, but it had limited sector-specific information. Grenada and St. Lucia, they were producing climate information, but it was in-house and ad hoc, not being sent out to the stakeholders or the users. So we garnered that information when we went in to do the national consultations, and we had 2 series of national consultations. The first series of national consultations were held in 2018 and 2019. And those were Grenada, St. Lucia, St. Vincent and the Grenadines in July 2018, Jamaica, December 2018, and Dominica in October 2019. And by the time we were through with the first set of national consultations, if you look to the right, based on the information that we gathered from the first national consultations, the 3 target countries that were chosen for us to work with us going forward with the roadmaps committees and the sector-specific information were Grenada, St. Lucia, and St. Vincent and Grenadines. And we held a second national consultation series in February 2020. And we had over 100 participants at these combined for these national consultation series. The national consultations that we had, they directly contributed towards Activity 2 and Activity 3 under subcomponent 2 of the PPCR, and that is to develop priority climate products and services for some PPCR countries, and to build the capacity of the National Meteorological Services to deliver on their expanded role as national climate centers. The objective of these national consultations, when we went in, we wanted to familiarize the country representatives with the Caribbean's programmatic approach, how we were doing things at the regional level as it relates to the design, development, and the delivery of sector-specific climate services. We also wanted to begin to strategize the formation of the National Climate Services Committee. We wanted to begin the development of the National Climate Services Roadmaps for each of the PPCR countries, and we wanted to start the discussion on what are the options for the design, the development, and the delivery of sector-specific climate information in each of these PPCR countries. So as it relates to the national committees for climate services, a firm decision was taken in each country to use an already existing national mechanism to govern climate services. And the options that were taken by each country. So Grenada decided that they would work through a subcommittee of the National Emergency Advisory Council, also called the NEAC. And what they would have had is the Met Service, NADMA, and the Ministry of Climate Resilience co-chairing this committee. And that was a tentative decision made by the Grenadians. In St. Lucia, they decided to work through the Flood and Drought Management Committee. And in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, they decided that they would work through a subcommittee of their newly formed National Climate Change Committee. Next slide. As it relates to the national roadmaps for climate services, so when we went in for the first national consultations, we had first drafts of these roadmaps being developed, and these first drafts were developed based on the regional roadmap template. So all the countries have that we went in, they have first drafts developed for their roadmaps. After the first national consultation was completed, we embarked on a consultancy to finalize the development of these national climate services roadmaps for Grenada, St. Vincent, and St. Lucia. And this was since December 2019. And after that, we had a second series of national consultations. And in these consultations, we advanced the draft roadmaps that were developed in the first national consultations. And what we also did was that we formulated national writing groups. And these writing groups were established because they were supposed to work along with the consultant to finalize the development of these roadmaps. And if you look to the right of the screen, this is what the typical high-level view of the national log frame looks like, where they have outlined their goals, their roadmap goals, their roadmap guiding principles, and the roadmap objectives. Next slide. And as it relates to the development of sector-specific information at the national level, we are happy now we have National Climate Services bulletins at four of these countries. National bulletins of sector-specific information, let me say, is now operationally produced monthly by Grenada, and they have been doing this since September 2018, St. Lucia since June 2019, and St. Vincent and the Grenadines since September 2019. And we have Dominica with sector-specific information being developed since April 2019. St. Lucia has now embarked on the process of developing a draft agro-meteorological bulletin, and they have been embarking on this since February 2020. In the St. Vincent and the Grenadines National Bulletin, they have sector-specific information for the water and agriculture sectors. St. Lucia has sector-specific information for the agriculture, water, health, energy, and tourism sectors. Grenada and Dominica, they have sector-specific information for the water, health, agriculture, water, health, and tourism sectors. Next slide. So in summary, just to summarize everything that I just went through, before the PPCR project, there were no national committees for climate services. As it stands right now, national committees for climate services have been discussed and conceptualized in 3 PPCR countries. There were no roadmaps for climate services, and as it stands today, we have 5 national roadmaps drafted for 5 of the PPCR countries, and we are scheduled to complete 3 of these roadmaps by the end of the project, and that is St. Vincent, Grenada, and St. Lucia. We have, prior to the beginning of the project, we had 1 country with a national weather bulletin, and they had limited sector-specific information. As it stands right now, we have 4 countries producing national climate bulletins with sector-specific information. Just a little bit of what we would like to do going forward as it relates to the National Committees for Climate Services. We are hoping to develop and ratify committee TORs for the 3 PPCR countries. And we also want to further the work to formulate National Climate Services committees in the remaining CMO member countries. We, as it relates to the National Roadmaps for Climate Services, we are hoping, to develop, further develop the roadmaps for a wider cross-section of countries. And we want to mobilize the resources for the implementation and for the implementation of the completed roadmaps once they're finished. As it relates to the national climate bulletins, we hope to reach a wider cross-section of GFCS sectors. Right now, as it currently stands, the bulletins are not reaching all the sectors that we would hope. And currently the energy sector is the least served at the moment at the national level. And we're hoping to expand on the sectors that are served. And we also want to develop national climate bulletins for other CMO member countries who are not yet disseminating. Thank you.
Thanks, Jody. And we move on to the final subcomponent, the increasing the capacity of backup storage of regional climate data. We hand over to Mr. Lowe, one of our IT specialists and big data specialists. Jason, over to you.
Hi, good morning, everyone. As Mr. Chairman said, my name is Jason Lowe. I'm an IT specialist at the Caribbean Institute for Meteorology and Hydrology. And today we'll be talking about the increase in the capacity of backup storage for regional climate data. Next. Now, the goal of the component was the establishment of an alternative data backup mechanism and also implementing security policies for data and regional climate data. And this includes the activity of consolidation and expansion of regional hydrometeorological and climate archiving center and the establishment of all-site backup sites. The output of this, of course, is to create an alternative archiving center that is in full operation. The outcome of this was to enhance availability of regional hydrometeorological and climate data to support climate monitoring, building regional resilience to climate change, extreme weather, and increased climate variability, and to improve sectoral decision making. And the reason for all this is that future smart decisions will be partly to be data driven. So there's considerable need for the region to expand these climate data collection. 2, to ensure that collected data is safe and secure, and 3, to ensure that climate data is easily and readily available. Next. So this is a background of the previous model for storage and backup within the region, especially within the National Hydrometeorological and Meteorological Services. And most data are stored locally within those offices, and they're stored within external hard drives and office machines. And then for CIMH, we also store centrally copies of weather and climate data that we generate internally, and also receive from the Met offices and hydrological offices. And for our equipment, we have a storage area network and external hard drive. Next. Of course, this presents an issue, and there's an inherent risk from natural disaster based on a single point of failure. So if since these data are being stored in a single physical location, if a natural disaster were to occur, they will be lost because there's no backup or any redundancy within these offices, also including CIMH. There's limited on-site redundancy and no off-site facility for data storage. And existing data can be lost, of course, which will be difficult to recover. So the solution we have proposed is basically to implement a redundant storage system, which will enhance the on-site redundancy coupled with off-site redundancy in case the primary site becomes compromised for an unsettled period of time. And then the strategy for this is that we implement a multi-country strategy to achieve a defensive in-depth output. And the 3 countries we choose to implement the strategy for Barbados at CIMH, Trinidad and Tobago at the Caribbean Meteorological Organization, and Belize at the Caribbean Community Climate Change Center. So this is the topology of the layout for the solution. So each location, physical location, will have 2 servers, a primary and a secondary server. And CIMH will be the main hosting server. And then between CIMH and the other primary servers, the data will basically be replicated to each machine. Right? And then each primary server then replicates to the secondary machine. Right? So there's a backup of the backup. Here we have a standard enterprise specification for the server. So it's basically Intel Xeon machine. And the important thing to know is that each machine yields 8.7 terabyte of storage capacity after it's being configured for RAID 6. So myself and Erica Horton traveled to each country, except Barbados, to implement the primary and secondary server for the backup redundancy system. So you have here on this September 1920, this was completed in Barbados. And then at the CMO installation, we completed the installation October 17th to the 18th. Right? And then at the 5 Cs in Belize, we completed the installation of primary server 1 and 2, October 24th to 25th, 2019. Okay. So how frequent the data is being backed up? So right now, all the data in CIMH primary server is synchronized to each server once a day. And then all the primary servers are synchronized with the respective secondary server once a day too. So there's consistency within the data and also a backup of the data from the primary server in case anything happens. We were also able to procure additional storage, 700 terabytes of SAN storage under the PPCR project for storing data from the recently concluded Eureka project. This allows CIMH to become a primary mirror site for hosting Eureka research data, and also provides data accessibility for future research initiatives, especially within the Caribbean region. We were also able to procure LTO tape drives, and they're of the size of 30 terabytes in total. And this is the recently procured 700 terabyte storage system. And this was implemented in June 2020. To conclude, well, so we basically built an active redundant data storage and backup system that's distributed across 3 countries. We have significantly increased the data storage capacity for climate and weather data. We also provide daily synchronization of the weather and climate data. And also, if a location becomes inactive, then the network will continue to operate and function. I will now pass it back to Dr. Farrell.
Thanks, Jason, for that background on the data storage. So you've seen presentations on all 4 subcomponents of component 2 that CIMH leads. And what I will ask the principal, Dr. Farrell, to do is to just briefly give you an idea of how these 4 subcomponents feed into enhancing the resilience of the region to climate hazards. So over to you, Dr. Farrell.
Okay, thanks a lot. I assume everyone can hear me okay? I've been having an internet problem here.
You're good.
I see an error message on my screen.
Hear you, Dr.
You're good.
Okay, thanks. Okay, so Adrian's asked me to talk about how the investment ties into resilience. And to do that, I just want to start by having a quick go through on the definition of resilience. And this is the SEDEMA definition of resilience for the region. And resilience is the ability of a system, community, or society exposed to hazards to resist, absorb, accommodate, and to recover from the effects of a hazard. And in this case, we're talking really about weather and climate hazards. And we'll talk as I go along about where this particular thing, where resilience fits in, the project's resilience fits into this concept. The other thing that the SEDEMA definition talks about is that resilience for the Caribbean also connotes being able to bounce forward quickly in a matter that reduces susceptibility to the impact of the same hazard. And I'll again touch on that, where I think the project fits in there. Resilience ensures that livelihoods and lives are protected and assets safeguarded. And I think this is where the project really makes a significant difference in terms of protecting lives and livelihoods, because most of the investment actually focuses in the area of improving the human situation, whether that is providing early warning information at the weather time scale or at the climate time scale to allow people to make the necessary adjustments. But it also provides information to support long-term adaptation to climate change and so on, which helps to build resilience. So at the end, it says true resilience for the Caribbean will require transformation. And in that context, I think as you would have seen, a lot of elements that have been presented are part of a transformational process. So I believe that we are touching on really truly transformational approaches to building weather and climate resilience in the Caribbean. Next slide, Adrian. Hello? Next slide.
Yes, the slide has changed, David.
Oh, thanks. Okay, sorry, I thought I had lost you guys again. It may be slow on my screen, that's all. Sorry. In terms of the data collection systems, which Sean would have spoken about, in terms of building resilience through this action, the Institute data at the community level informs early warning systems at the community level, reducing loss of life and livelihoods, which is what we spoke about a minute ago. Data collected from the observation systems will feed into numerical weather products. One is to improve the products, but also to verify the accuracy of the products. Enhanced observations expand and enhance research, leading to new and improved climate products and services that support resilience building. The enhanced observations enable improved national and regional climate monitoring. I believe there's something that's missing at the bottom of the screen. That will enhance evidence-based adaptation policy, planning, policy, and decision making. So I believe the data storage part that Jason just talked about. I think we just went past that one, Adrian. So we can go to the next slide that you were just on. Thanks.
Is this the slide you want?
In terms of yes, this is the slide I want. Thanks. So with regards to this slide, this is the work that Jason just spoke about. And in this context, we had a risk to the data that we had, the climate data that we had. We only had one location where the data was stored. As Jason pointed out, we've reduced that risk by spreading the data around and providing continuous access to the data. And this is important because this data is essential for evidence-based weather and climate decision-making. And so we've reduced that risk. We've increased the storage infrastructure, as Jason pointed out, which allows us now to store more data and to make more data readily available to the science community, research community, and other communities who require this data to risk-informed society through products and services. Next. Next slide, Adrian, or is it just slow still?
I think, let's see. I think, is that the next slide here you want?
Okay, it's up on my screen now. Okay. Yes, it's on my screen now.
It's trying to change it, not
Thanks.
sure why it didn't change.
We also, Teddy and Chantel spoke about, that's the wrong slide, the previous slide, Adrian. The one on capacity building, please.
I think your slides are changing slowly. So when you tell me to change, I probably change it too far. So I'll go back to yours and you will let me know when to stop.
This is the one that says capacity. After this one.
You should be seeing it now. Yeah, your slides are really changing very slowly. You should see it now. Enhancing capacity to develop and deliver climate services. Are you seeing that now?
Yes, it just came up.
Right. Yeah, it's very slow then. Okay. Go right ahead.
Okay, so as Chantal and Teddy spoke about, the other area where we are building resilience or contributing to the building of resilience is by building capacity to deliver climate products and services. And this is important that we build resilience in this way so that sectors themselves can become more resilient. New climate related products and services are built using the capacities transferred at national and regional workshops. And this is also a discussion about CARICOV training as well. And we are using regional and extra-regional partnerships that allow for continuing collaborations to further enhance regional products and services under this project. And that is also leading to building additional resilience within the region with these new products and services that are being integrated through new capacities that are being built. Next. And the last part is the work that has been done by Jody and Roche in terms of building additional capacity, integrating climate products and services, new structures, intergovernance arrangements at national level. And this is supporting the development of national multi-year, multi-partner roadmaps to guide sustainable integration of climate services into national level program and policy and decision making. And this is extremely important, again, in terms of the resilience building because for resilience building to occur, there needs to be some way of sustaining these activities, and the activities can be sustained through national level programs, especially established national level programs, which is the aim under the project, or which has been started under the project. Next slide. The important thing that is that what we want to seek to do is have an integration of subcomponents, and this is achieved by and large under the project. So we're moving away from this siloed approach, and we have more connected activities. So we have enhanced data collection that requires additional storage, improved dissemination processes, and increased security protocols to facilitate increased data accessibility, and we've done that. By having increased access to data with appropriate capacity building processes in place, this leads to innovation that drives new and or enhance existing products and services. The innovation that builds products and services that are beneficial to society requires interaction with stakeholders through an agreed formal national arrangement with appropriate processes, and Roche and Jody are doing that. And once we have all of that established, it makes it, and we can demonstrate the value of this chain. It allows us to, at the national level, to get additional resources to improve the data collection systems and further improve the process of building products and services and making those available, high quality products and services available to stakeholders, etc. Next slide. One of the key things is really sustaining investment. And one of the big challenges has always been after projects, what do you do to sustain the investment? And in a lot of cases, projects or investments tend to stall after projects come to an end because there's no more funding. But one of the things that we intend to do, and which we have been doing over the years, is really adding to the whole resilience process through sustainable investments. And one of the ways, or two ways, that we have been able to sustain investments is either tying the investment into our operational budget, which we are able to do, especially where the investments align with existing operational and strategic plans that are integrated into CIMH work plans. And then we also work through new development partners initiatives where we can align that investment to support prior investments as well. And that is how we intend to work going forward with sustaining this investment that contributes to resilience building in the region. Thanks.
Thank you so very much, David. I just want to apologize to those listening to the technical challenge. In fact, at one point in time, Dr. Farrell dropped totally out of the discussion. With some challenges on the internet, but he managed to get himself back in just in time to make this final part of the presentation. So I thank him very much. You recognize that he was slow at times to receive this slide, but that was all part of the technical challenge, but we made it to the end. So what you would have seen, listeners, essentially we went through the entire component 2 of the PPCR program at the regional level. What you would have witnessed is the achievements and what we are seeking also to complete by the end of the project. The majority has been achieved, and in fact, we have, in many cases, in case of the training and in the case of looking at sector-related information and governance mechanisms and so on, we've gone beyond the initial target. You know how this works in our projects and programs. you have a target, and we exceeded that. In training, for example, you saw all 6 PPCR countries were trained, and at this sector level, you saw that 5 of the 6 countries would have had those discussions of governance and road mapping, with 3 of them being focused on to complete their roadmaps. One of the things you didn't see that some of your agencies will start to see by the end of January is that we developed 3 sector policy briefs, or should I say briefs for policymakers, to support the use and the expansion of climate-related products being streamed into those 3 sectors: water, agriculture, and health. The agriculture one had already gone out to CARDI and the Alliance for Agriculture in the Caribbean. We call it ACARI for review. And our health partners in the region, like CARF and PAHO, will receive a health one, and the Caribbean Water and Wastewater Association and the Global Water Partnership Caribbean, and so on, and other entities. We hope that you'll be able to review the water brief so it could be finalized. At this stage, we're going to have some questions. We're opening up the floor. I want to pass back to Jean-Pierre. Not sure how you're going to go about this, but our presentation on our achievements is now over, and we are here ready and willing to respond to any questions, any queries, clarifications that you need. So Jean-Pierre.
Okay. Thank you so much, Adrian. Good morning again, everyone. Based on how we've set up the webinar platform, a host has to unmute you for you to participate. And this is specifically for the Q&A section, which we're beginning now. If you'd like to make a comment or ask a question, all you need to do is raise your hand. And how you do that is you click the icon labeled participants at the bottom of your device screen, and click the button labeled raise hand. At that point, one of us, either a host or a panelist, will unmute your mic or allow you to speak. But before you turn your mic on, please be aware of your settings to avoid static, and ensure that your device is out of the path of the wind or a fan so that we can hear you clearly. If you would not like to ask a question over the audio, you can also participate in our Q&A. And the Q&A tab is also at the bottom of the screen. Okay, I see a hand go. I saw a hand go up. Okay,
Should I stop sharing, Jean-Pierre?
Can you repeat that?
Yes, this is Adrian. Should I stop sharing then?
No, you can keep on sharing. That won't interfere with this process.
Yes, go ahead then.
Okay, all right. So I see Shania Young from Belize raising her hand. So I'll allow you to talk now, Shania.
Hi, good morning. I just want to say, first of all, thank you all for the presentation. For me, it was very informative, and I've learned a lot. I just wanted to ask, when it comes to the technical manual that was presented, and also in services being a part, or if they are interested in services being a part of the developing a national roadmap, what are some of the procedures that needs to take place for that to occur? And also just to get access to some of the information that has presented, like the technical manual and other trainings.
Let's see if I can pick that apart. The first one is with respect to the manual. Teddy or Chantel, not so sure, but if you want to respond to that, but certainly the technical manual would be shared to not just by the PPC to the NMHSs or the PPCR countries, but this is should I say, this is a program, the training program that we are expanding across the region. Yes, it might have more or less been less tested on the PPCR with the countries involved, but it's open to all the countries of the Caribbean. I'm not sure. Cedric, Teddy, Chantel, you want to add anything? Go right ahead.
Nothing more to add by me.
Teddy, anything? Cedric is not a presenter, but he's in the chat. So I don't know, Jean-Pierre, if you can see if he has a raised hand. Teddy, you wanted to say anything? Maybe you might want to open it to Cedric, who's not a presenter, but is on the.
All right, Cedric, I'm going to allow you to talk now. Okay, so I've allowed Cedric to talk.
All right, thank you, Jean-Pierre. Thank you, Shana, for your question regarding the technical manual and the trainings. The technical manual is really going to be available to all the Met services that participate in the Caribbean Climate Outlook Forum. So don't worry, you will get it at in a short range of time. At present, the last version that we have is nearly the final version. We just need to resolve a few formatting issues, and then it will be distributed among the Met services. And I believe we will also put that up on our RCC page for anyone to download freely. With respect to the trainings, I would remind you that perhaps you were not in Belize when we did that, but we did a mini form of the same training, but focusing just on two components of the training in Belize a couple of years ago. But don't worry, many of the training aspects that have come in these training workshops have also been addressed and will continue to be addressed through CARICOF, and also will be addressed through other projects which we will start or continue to implement in future. So if there's interest from Belize, that can made such a request can definitely be made to the CIMH, and we can see how we can accommodate that. Thanks.
Okay. Thank you.
And regard, I think you had wanted to know how we can expand the sector-related program.
Yes.
So Jody can respond, and Jean-Pierre, Rocher, who works along with her, though not a presenter, she's online. And if she wants to make a comment in response to the sector-related program, I would suggest you can give her the mic. So it's herself or Jody who presented. They can either one.
Okay, can you just repeat that for me 1 second, please? Last thing
Sure.
you said. Oh, you said Diane Dormo?
Rocher Mahon.
So
if she has her hands up, I'm not sure, or Jody, it doesn't really matter, or both of them.
okay, so I will allow Rocher to speak now.
And Jody, if you want to speak, Rocher, you can go ahead. If you're hearing.
Great question, Shania. As you know, CIMH continues its thrust to downscale our services at the national level. I think in terms of the national roadmaps for climate services, Belize was not addressed under the PPCR program, but there will be other opportunities in future, I'm sure, to really build out other national roadmaps for climate services in countries like Belize. Similarly, for national products, we know that we've already built some capacity at the national level through even directly producing our regional climate bulletins for the tourism sector, for the health sector, that the National Met Services currently emulate. We will continue our regional efforts to build out climate bulletins for other sectors specifically in the meantime. But again, in terms of having a specific capacity building workshops and activities to help other national Met services to build their capacity to serve other sectors, I'm sure that we will have other programs and projects in future to do this. I think the regional roadmap for climate services that was co-developed with our regional partners at the sectoral level, like SEDIMA, like CARPA, like CARDI and others, and contributions we've had from our national stakeholders, whether it's from the Met Services or sector partners or sector stakeholders at the national level. That would be a key tool in terms of addressing some of these issues, with addressing the resourcing of that roadmap right now. And so I think that's going to open up a lot of opportunities going forward to really have specific national level programs that are resourced, and countries that have not yet benefited under the PPCR program, I'm sure will certainly have the opportunity to receive direct support for the building out of their national frameworks for climate services by strengthening, certain components of capacity. So, I'm very optimistic that going forward we will be able to more directly support countries. Thank you.
Thanks, Rochelle. Joe, do you want to add anything quickly?
Just to add that if I can't remember who it was that asked the question, but the participant from the link, Shania, if it is that you have maybe an in-house product that you guys are working on as well, you can go ahead and you can send it to us, either myself or Roche, and along. Sorry, I was muted at one point, so I don't know how much you heard.
We heard just the very, very end.
Jody, are you and Roche in the same area?
We are not, no.
Oh, okay. I don't know. I just keep on getting a wicked feedback. All right. Sorry about that. You can continue. We have a few more questions.
Okay. So just quickly, if you have an in-house product that you would like us to provide feedback on, just to help guide how you can go ahead to develop sector-specific information, we have no problem providing feedback. And usually we do that along with the assistant climatologists and the climatologists and the other technical officers at CIMH. So we have a wide range of team working on the feedback that we provide on the advancement of these national bulletins, whether you have it in-house or it is already developed. So if you have, I can send you my information, and then I will reach out to the other team members if you would like for us to review or provide feedback on any of your products. Thank you.
Oh, okay.
Thanks, Jody, Roche. Thanks, Shania. You see, the PPCR has moved well beyond the 6 focal countries to be of interest to other countries. So I'm sure that the donors and so on will be quite happy with that. Jean-Pierre, who's next? You will let me know.
Okay, I saw question from Jorge Gomez. He's asking, why not use cloud services instead of redundancy?
So that's David or Jason, you can respond.
Hi, you can hear me?
Yeah, hearing you.
Well, how should I say? Some governments are not still skeptical about hosting data in the cloud, given that there's been a flurry of hacks and leaks within the cloud service industry. So, and some people like to have control over the data essentially and know where the data resides. So that's one of the reasons why we didn't choose the cloud service essentially.
Anything from David?
If I can weigh in, just quickly. Yes, you could go with cloud services, but you have a running cost. With the approach we took, there's a fixed cost, but we don't have the running cost that one has to have with a cloud service, where you have to, and I recognize that the cost for cloud services may be fairly inexpensive at this time. But there's always that running cost that one always has to carry around in your budget to some degree. The other is that, and Jason started to touch on it, is that we would have to get permission to put country level data in an online cloud service. And so we would have to go back to the countries to make sure that countries are comfortable with that idea of putting their data sets in the cloud, so to speak.
Thanks, David. Next one, Jean-Pierre.
Yeah, I see Arlene Lang's hand.
Okay, go ahead. Yes, go ahead.
From the CMO HQ. So Arlene, I'm going to allow you to speak now.
Hi, good morning, everyone, and Happy New Year and a healthy New Year to you all. Can you hear me?
You're hearing you quite clearly.
Oh, wonderful. I just wanted to say thank you very much to the tremendous work that CIMH has been doing as part of this project and others. And I wanted to point out that as a complementary activity to what's been presented here, both Dr. Farrell and Mr. Trotman both contributed to the information that we've used in a consultancy to develop national strategic plans for a number of our member states. And as a part of that national strategic plan is the development of national frameworks for weather, climate, and water services. And so we are taking advantage of what has been done already by the CIMH in some of those member countries with regard to climate services and working to expand their capabilities in terms of weather services as well as part of this national framework. So I just wanted that information to be made available to the group. These were the countries that when we asked in 2019 who was interested in achieving some national strategic planning and getting some help with doing that, these countries requested that help. So we've been coordinating in the expansion of this development. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you so much, Arlene.
Yes, so I don't know, maybe we can take probably two more. Looking at the time, Jean-Pierre, not so sure. I think we might be closing in 8 minutes. I saw in the chat a message from Jonathan. I'm not sure who's it. Sean Boyce, Mr. Boyce would have mentioned Jonathan Cox, Dr. Jonathan Cox. The photos you saw, he was largely responsible to those systems that you saw installed in the field. I saw a message in the chat. I'm not so sure if he wanted to make a comment. I wasn't clear.
No, I think he just wanted to see who was on the call.
All right. Okay. Sorry. Maybe I misunderstood that.
So I've messaged him privately, and we'll sort that out otherwise.
Right.
We do have a question in the Q&A from Andrew Bishop. He says in Ghana they have very localized weather variability. Sometimes rain falls in one locality and not in the adjoining area. So he was interested in Dr. Allen's and Ms. Stoot's presentation about hourly data analysis, software tools, and predication tools, and wondering if any of the panelists had any thoughts to geographically localize data analysis and or modeling to understand the dynamics of heavily localized rainfall and ultimately to improve prediction at the local level.
Teddy, should I say that sounds like something very much up your street, and but Chantel and of course Cedric could also respond. Teddy, I don't know if you're hearing me.
Definitely. I'll just spend a few seconds.
Go right ahead.
Yeah, okay, Andrew. So that's a great question. And actually, I've read it a couple of times and I'm really fascinated by it. So the first thing I would suggest is that we'd have to understand what's causing that variability within that area relative to the surrounding areas. So is that place that's getting a lot of rain versus no rain? Is it near a water body? Is it at altitude? Is it near a flat land? Is it near some sort of standing water? Anything like that. So it'd be interesting to make those kind of comparisons to try and glean some light or some awareness on what might be forcing that variability. Now, having said that, you can use some of the software that we've applied in your training, the ClinPack 2 software, and you can read in your station data at different locations to calculate various climate indices. And these are things like consecutive rain days, minimum maximum temperatures, consecutive duration of various quantities. There are about 30 or so different climate indices that can be produced. Some will be meaningful, some won't be relevant. But you could compare those outputs at different locations to actually see how much of a difference the spatial variability plays and try and learn what's driving it. Because in my opinion, once we can figure out more of what's driving this variability, then it becomes more, or I should say it becomes easier to model it. So it's a little bit more difficult to model something if we don't understand what's driving the change. But the first step would be to look at some of these spatial variability and climate indices by our software that we use. So that's my quick answer, but if you can always send me an email, we can go over more detail and chat about it, because I'm interested as well.
Thanks, Teddy, and thanks, I can't remember the name, I think it's Mr. Bishop, it is, for the question. Jean-Pierre, can we take one more?
Let's see if we can wrap up quickly, Adrian. Cedric Van Merbeek had, I'm going to allow you to speak now. So all you need to do is unmute your mic.
Yeah,
that's the same Cedric from earlier.
It's the same Cedric.
Cedric, yeah.
You might not have remembered that we met on a previous occasion, Jean-Pierre. I'm the climatologist at CIMH. So,
yes.
Thank you for your question. I think Teddy has answered most of it. The only thing I wanted to add to that is that the National Hydrometeorological Service of Guyana has a climatology unit that has been working with international partners, and through that collaboration have been able to provide monitoring information for temperatures and rainfall and drought for the entire country. So a full country coverage based on a number of stations, weather stations, plus also remotely sensed information like satellite images, etc. And so with that aerial coverage, we can now use gridded products for comparatively in size much bigger country than the other Caribbean Meteorological Organization member states that we serve. And so it really makes sense to do these analyses that Teddy suggested based on gridded data, or at least a good surface coverage of the entire country of Guyana. And because the Met Service has gone through the exercise of producing these kind of data sets, this can now be done for Guyana, and that is a huge advantage that Guyana has at this point in time. So I just wanted to mention that the coverage, the aerial or the surface coverage of Guyana is being taken care of. So the Met Service in Guyana can definitely help you with that. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Cedric. Jean-Pierre, I think we might be moving out of time a bit here.
Yeah, so we're going to take one last question. It's from Dale Destin in Antigua and Barbuda. And I think he might be asking the same question that
I responded to in the chat.
He says, many of you were helped by the SIAC and Statistics Made Simple. Any chance of another round of those courses? He's also asking if GenStat is still available remotely.
Yeah, I'm not sure, but maybe I'm the best person to respond to that. And I responded to it in the chat by saying there is a project that we think will finally get off the ground very soon, probably signed off later this month or very early in February. I think we've gone through all the necessary procedures to have that done. And built into that project is some SAT training, which is what is it now? I can't remember what SAT means now. But essentially it's looking at the use of what was shown in the presentation using InStat, where we perform statistical analyses on climate data. More particularly, more towards agriculture, agroclimatology, but it can be statistics towards anything. So it's statistical training and the applications, and that we are hoping to have that program launched very soon once the dotted line is signed on by the relevant persons. We'll be introducing a new version of InStat, which is our version of InStat, far more powerful than you've seen in the previous trainings in the SIAC program. So hopefully that will help. And in GenStat is still available, but the permissions to use it could be fairly costly. But it's something I would share with you, Dale, how to get in contact with those persons. That ends my response, Jean-Pierre.
All right. Okay. Thank you, Adrian. On the question of localized weather variability, Arlene Leng from the CMO did provide some additional context. She did say that Guyana is running the WRF model for mesoscale high resolution weather prediction, which should help address the local level weather prediction, and that Guyana's radar archive can be used to develop climatology of localized rainfall. She says the climatology will be limited to the northern part of Guyana, but can help with diagnosing the localized forcing. Now, as I've said in the chat, if you have any additional questions, send them to ppcr.comms@gmail.com, and I'll ensure that they're sent on and answered. I think we can look to wrap up now, Adrian. So thank you to our presenters. Thank you to our attendees for making the time to join us. And I will be sending out a package with the material that has been created from this consultancy, from component 2 of the CIMH, for all our attendees and all the persons who have signed up to use. So you can look out for that before the end of this week. Thank you again for joining us.
Thank you so very much, Jean-Pierre, again for the opportunity. So take care, everybody, and goodbye and all the best for the rest of 2021.
Remember to keep safe in these uncertain times. Wear your mask and distance, etc., etc.